Hello, I'm John Glynn. I'm going to be using the gradient tool in this particular demonstration, and that is the tool that's in the toolbox here, which looks like a rectangle with a white to black or black to white area in it, and something along this kind of lines will look the same at the top of this particular picture. It'll have various options that are related to this particular tool. If you don't have this version of Photoshop, then you may find that the options are actually at the bottom of your picture area. But the same basic principles should apply. So at the moment I've got a black to white. That's the usual setting that comes up, and you'll notice that the squares here are also black to white. Now if I were just to click on the gradient tool and highlight it, and then go to my picture and drag down like I'm doing now with my gradient tool over my photograph, that's how it'll go. So we're not actually looking for that kind of look to our photograph. We need to make sure that we can see our picture underneath all of this, and we need to have a different setting. You've got choices of going back on this. You can go to Edit and Undo. I'm using the History palette here, and in the History palette, which you can find under Window, you go to History palette. The History palette, or Undo History, it is sometimes called as well, will allow you to drag previous actions into a dustbin, and you can go back a stage. Okay, what basically, obviously that doesn't work in this particular occasion, so we need to have something which allows us to see through the effect and yet make changes and keep the picture. So we've got a choice here. We've got a dark black to checkerboard, or a grey to checkerboard. The dark black is the one I'll use because it's more obvious for demonstration. If I click on this option, now when I make changes to the picture and I drag it down again over my photograph, the gradient tool, it graduates from the top to bottom, but now it is transparent. That's what those checkerboards mean. It's a transparent, so I can see through it, and it goes from black, because that's what's here, to here, that's the same color, to clear basically. If I want a different color, I could click on that black square, choose a red, say OK, and now if I drag my cursor down the monitor, down the picture there, I get a red sky instead of a black sky, because I've got a red box in my color square there. So whatever that color is effectively the color that your sky is going to go, but you do make sure that it's got a clear bit, what will be a transparency, so that you can see through it to the picture below. Now doing this is a fairly sort of dramatic way of changing a picture, and you can see that it actually covers the image, which is not, again, that's not what we're wanting to do in this particular photograph. We're wanting to see this picture and see the building and just darken or make the sky bluer. So I'm going to go to my gradient tool and just undo all of those and go back to my opening picture. I'm going to make it black and white just to start with, and I've got my gradient tool here from black to checkered. If I choose a different one, by the way, you get different shapes. There's a star there. That's what that would look like. It's black again with a star, whatever that star color would be, whatever that whatever that color is on the black square, that's the color that this would become. And as you see, it's black in this particular case, so I've got another option here as well, which can give you a different sort of look. Okay, so by dragging on these you can add different shapes to your picture. Basically the one we're wanting is just going to be a normal gradation, so I'm going to undo all of those as well. Okay, I do want a blue sky, so I'm going to make it a bluer sky and say OK. So I'll have a blue box, and what I'm also going to do is select the sky, because if I select it I then don't impact any of the rest of the picture, and I'm also going to create a new layer. But the first thing I'll do is select areas of the picture, and I'm going to use the quick selection tool which is in the toolbox, because this will quickly pick up the sky area, because it's completely different to the building, and therefore it will find edges really quickly, because there's a definite difference between the edges, and the tonal range is completely different, and it finds tonal ranges that are different. If you have similar tonal ranges, then you'll have to be more precise with using this particular tool. I'll also zoom in so that I can do these two little windows here in case I want to make them appear the same density of blue as the rest of the sky. So to do that I'll zoom in, and I'll do that by using the Control key and plus on the keyboard, and that allows me to zoom in. On the right hand side I've got the Navigator Palette. The Navigator Palette allows me to move around the picture by dragging the red box, and I can find these palettes all in the window in the top toolbar. They're all listed in there. Click on that, you'll see them listed. If they have a tick, they're open. If they're unticked, they're closed. You just tick the one you want. I've got Navigator, I've got History, and I have Layers Palette. I can also zoom in and out using the Navigator Palette directly, because at the bottom I have a little slider. Drag it to the right, zooms in. Drag it to the left, zooms out. And then I can drag this square around over where I want. And I'm now going to make sure that I can select these two little windows here, and the cursor will find the edges automatically, or this particular tool does, because there's a definite contrast between the sky and the brickwork. I can now zoom back out. I can do that on the Control minus key. I can zoom back out, and I can now see my selection with the marquee. Now it may be that I want to have a softer edge to the marquee. I will do that as well. So I can go up to Select and Mask, and just smooth it down a bit, so it's not a harsh edge but a softer edge to the building and the sky. And just say Selection, say OK. And now I'm going to create a new layer. So going into my Layers palette, I will have the option to create a new blank layer. Again, you can see that it's got a checkerboard. With that checkerboard, I'm able to see through to the picture below. And now when I go up to my gradient tool and I drag down the gradient tool, making sure that that particular layer is chosen, I get a blue area to the sky, which does not impact any of the rest of the building or the rest of the photograph. And because it's on a separate layer, I have the option now to go to dissolving or changing the look of how this colouring, it looks a bit harsh at the moment, how it will work with the picture below. So if I go to Overlay, you'll notice that it blends it a bit better. If I go to Lighten, if I go to Darken, you get different approaches to how it's actually going to look with the rest of the photograph. Sometimes it will be quite dramatic, as in difference. Other times dissolve, looks a bit weird. So just trying things out normal if you wish. You've also got opacity on the right hand side. Click on that option and you can change the opacity of the effect with the picture below. Okay, so you can have more control over the actual look of the colour and how it's going to impact the rest of the photograph. If you wish to, at this stage, you can also change the colour by going to your little box on the left hand side colour option. Choose a different colour, say OK, go back to make sure my tool is on, drag that down, and now I've got a purple colour, because, well, I've got a pinky colour really, And again, I can still do my overlay look or my lighten look, whatever I wish to utilize to add a bit of color or tone to my sky. Okay, so it's quite a good way of working. And then you just go to your background. You can deselect obviously the area and then work on other parts of your photograph. But it allows you to come back to that picture if you do deselect. So I go up to select and deselect. I can still make changes to that particular layer with the layer below. Do normal. Okay, so I can still have an impact on that layer by changing it. However, if I now want to change the color, I'd have to go back and deselect because I've deselected. So to make any further changes to the color, I'd have to reselect it. Otherwise, any changes I make to the color now will impact the whole picture, not just the area I've selected, because I've already deselected it. Okay, so you'd have to reselect it if you're going to make changes to a particular part of your picture. Okay, so hopefully that makes some kind of sense. It's a complicated wee tool to use, or can be, but it's mainly remembering to select the area you're going to work on and then create a layer and then use your gradient tool after you created a new layer. Okay, remember the selection has to be done on the background. It can't be done on a new layer. Okay, so the selection has to be made prior to doing the layer, or you'd have to turn the layer off to make that selection. Okay, it just makes life much easier. So have a go at using that selection tool. Okay, thank you for watching.